You're listening to DraftKings Network.
You know that sound. It's the sound of money hitting your Venmo account, a friend paying you back, or maybe it's getting cash back from your favorite business when you pay with the Venmo debit card, or it's realizing you can pay with Venmo at checkout at thousands of brands. Now, there are so many more ways to answer the question, what's your Venmo? Download Venmo today. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Dosh Cashback terms apply.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz Podcast.
This is a clear-cut end to the Butler-Heat relationship.
This relationship has been over.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here off the court, but I want to be back to somewhat dominant.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Jimmy Butler's got a trade he's demanding, doesn't want to play for Spo. For 7 games now he's out, he's suspended, vibes are at an all-time low. No, we can't forget when Jimmy made the Heat a finals team. He's become a menace, Riley's gotten way too old for his shit.
Jimmy Buckets ain't just gonna stand there in the corner. And yo, he's 35, no, he ain't getting any younger. He's lost a couple steps, no longer alpha or a killer. Best review the situation that you caught up in. He's done this almost everywhere else that he's been. How can we be surprised that he's doing it again? Now we can test the market for an old malcontent to wanna talk or think about all of the money that we spending.
Says he'd play for Atlanta, just not the Heat. Maybe even for Toronto, just not the Heat. Send his ass to Indiana, just not the Heat. Could even trade him to Utah, just not the Heat. Could get his joy back in Denver, just not the Heat. Could sell his coffee as a Clipper, just not the Heat. Maybe a Buck or a Blazer, just not the Heat. He says he'll play anywhere, just not the Heat.
That's a good song. That's a good song. The original is a good song, and that song is good. I have spent too much time, Stugatz, not talking about college football and everything that's happened over the last 10 days. I've got so many thoughts. I imagine you guys have a ton of thoughts. I don't understand how North Carolina was in a bowl game. They had allowed 52 points at the half at home to James Madison. Like, you cannot.
Everyone makes a bowl game.
Everyone does. La Tech got in at 5-7. Yes, a lot of crap out there, but holy shit, that Pittsburgh-Toledo game carried me for like 3 days.
God, that was so good. It's always amazing when you find out how many college football coaches don't really know the new overtime rules in real time.
Isn't it amazing to watch all of these geniuses like even LaFleur have problems with time management? They called a timeout yesterday to kick a 55-yard field goal in just horrible freezing that was freezing water bottles that were liquid at one point, and then you just open them and they become ice. And the play at the end, Green Bay, while playing its starters and having starters hurt, loses to Chicago on dueling 50-yard field goals, and you're trying to figure out which of these teams is going to screw up the end of the game more.
Yeah, good for the Bears. I like that they asked DJ Moore about it. If, are you guys happy about this? Like, was this really the best thing? He's like, yeah, screw the Packers. He said it with the F word, but I censored it for you, Dan.
Thank you. I appreciate all of that. The college football, Stugatz, among Beamer and Bielema fighting over the dumbest thing possible. About when you look at Notre Dame winning, Ohio State winning, I think most of us would argue that Notre Dame and Ohio State seem to be the best teams, correct? Ohio State more than Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame has been, it's amazing they lost to Northern Illinois, but I think Notre Dame has been, certainly one of the top 4 teams in the country. What I learned about this playoff is we had so much time to figure this thing out, and what we came up with is we're going to give Boise and Arizona State bye weeks and let them sit around and get healthy and get rested, and then they come out and they get blown out. It's been a disaster.
Arizona
State
did not get blown out.
Boise didn't get blown out. That was a good game, I thought.
And to your point, like they've already said, like it seems like that's being changed immediately. The whole bye week thing,
right?
Like we're gonna get those. All that's guaranteed to those teams now are just playoff position, but they're gonna totally reevaluate the byes.
Which then everyone's gonna complain about when they realize it means Notre Dame can get a bye without playing in a conference championship game.
Yeah. But Mike, you agree? Like after watching this thing play out, and there's 4 teams left, that there were 5 teams worthy of being in the playoffs this year, right?
Well, but that's a feather in the cap for the expanded playoff. Isn't Is it not? Because right now everybody's picking Ohio State. Ohio State would be on the outside looking in.
I think that's a different conversation. I also think when it comes to Ohio State, they obviously look like they're by far the best team in the country right now after the Rose Bowl. Like they just and the Tennessee game, they've just looked so good in the playoffs. But I don't think there's a way to create a seeding that accounts for the fact that the best team in the country once again crapped the bed in the last week of the regular season against their rival. That's just a thing that like you can't account for when you're seeding a playoff tournament. But it's crazy.
When Michigan, though, beats Alabama like that, I did find interesting watching the coverage of, Boise State's a fraud, but Tennessee's not. Boise State shouldn't be in the playoffs, but Alabama loses and Georgia loses and Texas barely wins. And, look, it's the Big Ten that's playing the best football in the country this year. Look at what you said. Oregon's got track stars. Get out of here. Like, you can't stay on the field. You're not physical enough. I didn't have it being like that, Stugotz. When Michigan went and beat Ohio State, I stopped believing in the idea that Ohio State could run with all of these SEC teams. But those SEC teams, I think that the on-field takeaway, is it not that, I guess Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are better than I thought they were, and you're not going to be able to make the argument that the best in the SEC is better than them.
I mean, on God Bless Football, talking to Lucy, who covers college football here for Meadowlark Media, she's been telling us that Penn State is legit good all season. That if it were a 14 playoff, Penn State would likely be one of the teams that was selected to a 14 playoff.
Yeah, and yet if you watch the playoff games, like I don't think they're playing particularly well. As ridiculous as it may seem, that home field advantage was the entirety of the reason why they won against SMU. SMU blew several opportunities to take control of that game. Boise State also blew some opportunities there. I think my takeaway, and I'm so glad we missed that first week of reaction because it was asinine. This is why you don't put Indiana in there. People as if they were actually holding on to that, as if that were any sort of take entering the CFP, that you don't put Indiana in there. No one had that take. And Kirk Herbstreit goes on TV, armchair quarterbacking the situation, and everyone does the same thing, pounds a table for the SEC. But then the week afterwards, we realized, we should have cooled on that. But I think taking anything that we've seen from the bowl games, Alabama against Michigan, what we saw from South Carolina, who didn't even know who Illinois players have been saying, like, they actually thought we were Syracuse. They had no idea who they were playing. These are exhibitions. There's opt-outs everywhere. I don't believe in using a bowl game as credence to support a take. They don't really matter. They're just these funky things that exist with bastardized versions of teams. So I'm not down with that. But I think the takeaway here should be CFP got it right. They ended up getting it right. Once Clemson won that game, they got it right. And here we have a scenario in which everyone is the odds-on favorite is Ohio State to win this championship. And that's not something that would have been around had they not expanded these things.
I got to tell you that the last 2 years of what I've seen so far, Stugotz, with both Michigan and Ohio State, it's hard not to come away with, wait, that's better than the top of the SEC? Like, that happened kind of quick. That yes. I thought it was Georgia, Alabama. I thought it was Clemson. That it feels like that one happened happened a little quicker than I was ready for. The idea that physical Northeastern football is something that beats the Mississippi offense.
And the one SEC team that's in the Final Four is Texas.
The Big Ten's been a big deal for a while. Michigan won the national championship last year, so I'm confused about these takes. Michigan had to beat Alabama to get to the national championship.
No, but Dan is saying I think the general consensus is the top of the SEC is better than the top of the Big Ten, and that's been blown away.
Well, this Big Ten, because I would just say that Ohio State has been in this class with Clemson and Alabama and Georgia. They've been competing with them. The ones that haven't have been Michigan and Penn State, and Michigan was last year.
No, Michigan's made the playoff multiple times before they won the national championship. So I disagree with that take. If you want to, maybe the top of the SEC has been better than the Big Ten, you could argue, but I really think that like a lot of that is because of Nick Saban and his tenure at Alabama, more so than like if you took like the top five and compared it to the top five or something like that. there's probably data that's out there that I could look into, but I do think Indiana beat Michigan this year, so they should absolutely be considered the top of the Big Ten with Ohio State and Penn State and Oregon, the teams that made the playoff. But yeah, it was a weird season for the SEC, but an SEC team could still win the national championship because Texas is still in there. So I don't know.
There's just nothing that pisses me off more after a college football playoff game than say, see, that team lost, so they shouldn't have been in there. It's
right.
It's
when all the
exercise.
Favorites with the home sites are winning, like that's sort of the point. Is that like the better teams get easier matchups? Like that's how that's how tournaments work with seeding and brackets. Like I agree with you, and it was very frustrating. That whole weekend was so annoying because I was at the Notre Dame Indiana game, and it was by far, maybe not by far, but it was the best college football atmosphere game experience of maybe my life. Like it was so much fun. I had an absolute blast. And then to get home that night and hear everyone blasting this game when it's like the first time we've ever had a college football playoff game at a home site and everyone's like just taking a big dump on Indiana. I was like, whoa. Why don't we like the sport that we cover? Why can't we like at least take a step back and be like, wow, that was cool. Oh, it's, Indiana's not there yet, but this is a great season for them.
I would like to seize on that and ask Dan, have you noticed what's been going on with college football media personalities? Because they've gotten more and more surly, and they seem to have turned against the fan base that helped get the ratings to where they're at. It's almost as if they welcomed in Nick Saban as an elder statesman, and they're all just trying to impress Nick Saban with how such a hard ass they can be, and how I really think Kirk Herbstreit came away forever changed by that exchange that he had with FSU fans, and he's just made a projection across all of college football fandom. Isn't this the fun sport? Isn't this the one that we all gather around and say, like, this is school pride, this is cool stuff? You turn on College Game Day and everyone's telling you what's wrong with this. Guys, you're the one that came up with the CFP idea. Why are you shitting on it 1 week into this whole expanded thing? Can we have some fun here?
All right, we can have some fun in a moment with Domonique
Can we just have some fun?
I mean, close games are fun, blowouts are not.
I want to have fun.
I had a blast at that blowout.
Since you
nice
mentioned Kirk Herbstreit, let's have some fun with playing the Shannon Sharp sound going after Kirk Herbstreit, because Kirk Herbstreit was watching Ohio State, and he said, let's see what First Take has to say about Ryan Day now. And then Shannon Sharp just went on and straight out threatened Kirk Herbstreit on First Take.
Even though I'm going to let it slide. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to let it slide. Everybody's at ESPN, because had you not taken the route you taken, I would have lit their ass up. But I'm going to let it slide. You know what, guys? Congratulations, Ohio State. You won the game. But, hey, if we're going to be on the same team, if we're going to work for the same network, don't do that. Kurt, Chris Fowler, I promise you, if you ever mention anything, any platform that I'm on again and talking about, I wonder what they're going to say in negativity, I promise you, ESPN ain't got enough bosses to keep me off y'all for what I'm going to say. So I'm going to let y'all slide today. I'm going to turn it over to D.O. before I get myself in trouble. But don't play with me. Go ahead, D.O.
Damn. I got to follow? Go ahead. Man.
Not the best spot to put Domonique in. Shannon Sharp is really good at television.
Yep.
And Kirk, please say something else. Please,
because the next one's not going to slide.
Please, I'm imploring you to say something else.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yeah.
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January feels like a fresh start. 365 blank pages, just waiting for your story to be written. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist. Ready to revise the parts of your story holding you back. Life isn't about New Year's resolutions that disappear by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your life. Therapy can help you do just that. Therapy isn't just for the big traumas. It's for anyone who wants to grow, heal, and thrive. With BetterHelp, therapy is convenient and affordable. It's fully online. You can access it anywhere, anytime. BetterHelp connects over 5 million people with a network of 30,000 licensed therapists, specialized, experienced, and ready to help. If it's not a right fit, you can switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.
Hey, Happy New Year, friends. It's 2025, and a new year can mean new opportunities. For a lot of you out there, I imagine you spent the last couple of weeks sitting and thinking how to make your 2025 special, different, and set yourself in the right direction. One way that you can do so is actually by following my boss, Dan Le Batard's path, and starting your own business. You might have a lot of questions. How do I get started? How do I come up with a brand? How do I sell stuff to people? What am I even going to sell? Just take a deep breath. Shopify has got you. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. But I know you're thinking, what happens if I don't act now? Will I regret it? What if someone beats me to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Established in 2025. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Batard. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Batard to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/Batard.
Dan Le Batard.
Cheaters never prosper.
Stugats.
I ain't cheating.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats.
Domonique, welcome. I'm very excited for you. You're doing live shows now. The Domonique Foxworth Show is expanding. You're a giant empire now, and you're doing a live show this week. And I heard, Stugats, how do you think this one's going to go? That one of the featured events is Dan Graziano doing trivia against Bomani Jones.
Oh, wow. Well, Bomani's going to eat him up.
Graziano's good.
No, Bomani's better.
Who's the favorite here, Domonique? Domonique.
Well, I mean, I think even Bomani would admit that Graziano's the favorite. So, like, this was born out of a couple years ago. I created like a trivia show for Bomani on his show, and then we started doing it on Get Up, and Bomani always texts me the answers when Graziano's answering it. But Graziano, I think even Bomani would admit that Graziano is the favorite, but you never know. It depends on the questions for sure.
What else are you doing? And tell us more about the event, please, because I was very excited.
It's on thanks for having me on. It's January 15th. It's in Manhattan at the Whitby Theater. Graz will be there. Bomani will be there. Kevin Clark, Jason Goff. Who else? Hembo's coming. Oh, Greeny's going to come. Greeny's going to show up. I don't know what we're going to have him do, but he's going to show up. So get your tickets, $35. We got alcohol. It should be fun. I did my promo stuff. Now let's talk about the Panthers, guys.
Which Panthers? The Florida Panthers?
Yeah, the Florida Panthers. Like I've been listening to the show. It's so sad. The Dolphins make you sad. The Heat make you sad. The Marlins make you sad. Panthers are good. Right, Roy?
Absolutely.
Panther talk.
Defending champion Florida Panthers. Yes, they're the best team currently in the Tri-County area.
Domonique, I'm glad you brought Roy into the discussion, Domonique, because I want to ask you how rare it is to give yourself a haircut and cut part of your eyebrow off. Because this is something that apparently has happened to Roy. Let's focus in on Roy's face here.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Well, what happened? Do I have this right or do I not have this right? Have you indeed accidentally shaved part of your eyebrow?
Well, I believe I may have shaved a little portion of my eyebrow right around here, trying to cut
hat helps with the story.
Ooh, but it works though. That shit look good. I like it, Roy.
Thank you.
I think Roy was threading.
I might have to give me a little cut in my eyebrow. How you pull that off?
You know, just accidentally sliding the clippers towards the eyebrow.
I mean, it does look kind of good. I got to be honest.
Thank you.
But how often does this happen? Explain to me, please, how rare an event this would be, not just for Roy, but for any human being that has grace around their head.
Yeah, I've never cut my eyebrows by mistake. I don't know, Roy. I want to focus on how good it looks. And Barkov, right? What about that guy? He's good.
Silky trophy winner. Yeah.
Juju,
Let's go.
Put it on the poll, please. Have you ever shaved part of your eyebrow by mistake?
I think Roy went to like a brow bar or something. Like Roy was trying to give him some eyebrows, some shape, and then he wasn't sure how it came out. So he said, "Hey guys, just my eyebrows look different. I may have accidentally shaved off a piece, just looking for some compliments." And now he knows this worked.
I guess I got to do the other eyebrow now. Huh?
Oh, you stopped after one?
Just do one. I like it. It's the imbalance. It's unpredictable. It looks good. I'm a fan.
Remember,
keep it up.
sisters, not twins. Eyebrows.
Okay, sisters. Gotcha.
Domonique, name a second Florida Panther.
Trivia.
Oh, Kachuk.
Third.
You trying to play me? You trying to play me, Dan? You trying to play me? You get yourself a nice little shirt with buttons. You got your first shirt in your life with buttons on it, and you want to be a smart ass because you're Mr. Big Man. I got buttons. Look at me. I can wear two shirts at one time.
Brags about buttons.
That's what I was doing. He sees
I'm
through
so
me.
fancy.
Look, he got me. He did. I came in today. Look at me. I got buttons. Nobody's got as many buttons as me. That's
Look,
exactly.
first day back in school from the break. I'm gonna wear all the stuff my wife bought me for Christmas. Look, I'm a layer two shirts. Look at me. I just learned
Cold
about
front
layering.
coming through. It's coming through. It's 40 degrees this week. It's coming through to South Florida. Genuine winter. Coldest days.
It's 140 in the studio.
It's horrible.
It is.
It's
so
hot.
Smells like sewage.
It's just sewage soup.
I'm in the middle of a snowstorm here, so you guys need to stop complaining.
I would trade you in a heartbeat right now.
Let's talk some football things. I've got a number of them to get to with you. If Andy Dalton doesn't get into a car accident, is Bryce Young still a starting quarterback in the NFL ever again?
Hell no. Probably not. Maybe he gets another chance somewhere else down the road, but this Bryce Young turnaround has been the most incredible thing. It's almost inexplicable. I see what's happening here, but we always feel like, or at least for me, once you get an idea, the range of what a quarterback can be, he's not just gonna blow the roof like this. If he started his career the way he's playing right now, we'd be talking about him as if he was one of the second comings, like the future of the league. The stuff that he's doing now is really incredible. Comeback player of the year, probably, in my view. I'm a big Bryce guy. He's fun. He's doing no-look passes and celebrating on everybody in very Steph Curry fashion. I appreciate this comeback story that is Bryce Young. And, I mean, it's always kind of the case is we forget the little events that change history for us. But, yeah, it's always something like that. I guess it's not always a car accident for Andy Dalton, but it's always some random occurrence that puts somebody in the spotlight.
The Chiefs are scared of Joe Burrow. Do you agree? I mean, come on, man.
Stugat's minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
No,
scared of him.
Not afraid. He's not. Does anybody know if Stu knows about how the playoffs work?
I want to ask you a sort of broader question that I don't think people are talking about today. Do you think that we can make the extrapolation with Deshaun Watson, who was at one point a top 5 quarterback? Best Texans teams we've ever seen are with Deshaun Watson as a top 5 quarterback. Do you make a link between everything he went through and a short-circuiting confidence that made him go from a top 5 quarterback to a bad quarterback? That everything that happened to him derailed his play? Everything he did, I should say, not everything that happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with making general psychoanalysis sometimes, but this is so specific, it's hard to say. He had injuries also, but I can't imagine that having all of those things that you have done come back and be the main storyline of your life. I can't imagine that's an easy burden to carry, whether it is or not whether it is warranted and it's part of his responsibility for the things that he's done and decisions that he's made. That has to be tough. It weighs on every single person that would put themselves through something like that. I do find, though, incredibly interesting that they never paid Baker Mayfield, which I like to go back on that argument because I said they should have paid him, and now he's the best quarterback right now playing in football. I know Mike is off of I got a little carried away. Not the best in football. That was an exaggeration. He's the best Browns quarterback that they've had in a long time, and I know Mike is off of the Browns, but you got to enjoy the way Baker's playing right now, right?
I become a Bucs fan because of it. I love it.
Ooh.
I love it. I love watching Baker play. Quite honestly, I think he made one of the greatest throws in NFL history to McMillan. That catch and throw was unbelievable, and the TV broadcast angle does it no justice.
It was so great, and right after, wasn't there a penalty right before that?
McMillan. He said he mimicked a gun, which you can't do. By the way, after they scored the touchdown, they fired cannons.
But he just did a first down. What he said he was doing was first down, not a gun, and then they penalized him.
But he did like a shotgun type of
first down. You can't first down with 2 fingers. That's the thing. Just foul. But that was a really good throw. But you guys obviously ain't watching Joe Milton if you think that Baker Mayfield's throw was the best throw of the weekend, because Joe Milton had 2 throws in that game that were absurd. I think he threw the best pass or the fastest pass in the league this year.
He was terrible at Tennessee. Terrible.
No, but I could do that throw with an orange. So
he's got a giant arm, and I think the best play he had yesterday was called back on a penalty. I thought the rollout to the left where that was called back, wasn't it? The one into the end zone there where he rolled out to his left and spun out.
I don't remember exactly which one you're talking about, but he had another rollout that I think counted where he hit a guy in the middle field, ridiculous pass. Then he had one to the left that was the fastest throw in the league this year. Joe Milton is probably not very good at football, but he had a really good day, and that was fun. It's very fun having a good day.
What were your thoughts on Saquon Barkley? People are talking about him not breaking Eric Dickerson's record, but he failed to break Eric Dickerson's record. That's a 16-game record. It's not a 17-game record.
You're one of those guys? Dan?
Well, I'm just saying you got to do it in the same number of games.
No, you don't. You don't.
Well,
you don't.
You kind of do. I mean,
you have.
You don't.
What do you mean you don't?
It's a season record. They extend the season, the record changes. Like, no one points to Eric Dickerson and says that the Juice still has the record because he did it in 14 games. Like, if they extend the season, it becomes a season record. Don't fall into this trap, Dan.
No, but
You're too smart for that.
I'm saying
Two-shirt Dan is too smart for that.
No, it's got to be the same. O.J. Simpson has to own the record because that's the fastest that anyone's done it in 14 games, and that's what the season was. If you gave O.J. Simpson 3 more games, what are you talking about there? It's not the same.
I think O.J. Simpson's not allowed to have any records anymore. I think that we decided that O.J. Simpson's behavior off the field means that we have to pretend that he wasn't the best running back in NFL history.
But at the time that Dickerson was breaking that record, don't you think O.J. was telling someone, hey, I did it in 14 games?
Probably, and who cares? It's a new record. You know what? I do a lot of old man things now because I'm an old man, but I got pulled into an ancient running back rabbit hole a couple of days ago when we were having this conversation, and Herschel Walker was absurd. There's so many running backs that we don't see anymore because we've devalued the position, that if you watch their highlights, we all know Barry Sanders, just watch 15 minutes of Herschel Walker play football or O.J. Simpson play football. Do that, young people who are not cool enough to wear 2 shirts like me and Dan. Watch some old football. You'll appreciate it.
It's Ambassador Walker to you.
Talk about Georgia football, though. They
I
lost
just
to
want to
Notre
talk
Dame.
about Kachuk, Barkov. So when is, I assume the new Dan attire is motivated by his beautiful wife. When's Abby going to get you right, Stu? Come on, man. It's time to up your game.
There's no getting me right, Domonique. We're well past that point. She's stuck with me. I am what I am. I ain't changing, man.
All you need is a second shirt. That's all you need, buddy.
Is that it?
Domonique, last thing before I get you out of here. That Giants-Colts game last week was more interesting than anything that happened yesterday. The idea that the Giants and the Colts would play a football game, the Giants would ruin their chances of getting a number 1 pick, and the Colts would have their season ended, because that's what happens when you go to the backup quarterbacks. That game, and yesterday's game for that matter, you can't lose that draft status on one of these regular season games at the end of a season when you're firing your coach.
Don't play Joe Milton. I mean,
yeah, I get it. I'm staunchly opposed to losing intentionally, as you guys know, and as Dan likes to mischaracterize me all the time about when it comes to the Dolphins. But if you're bad at football, you're bad at football. Being extra bad at football isn't going to make you good. Like, playing for draft status is gross to me generally, and I think we have this extended season. You're going to send me into a long rant that's probably pretty boring. I'm going to self-edit myself and point out the fact that if teams stink, they deserve to stink, and they shouldn't be rewarded with high draft picks. Generally, I hate that as a concept. We should eliminate the draft and only have free agency where you can use money to negotiate. And we can still have a fun show. You can announce what team you're signing with out of college, and they can pay you however much they want to pay you to get you come. I generally hate the idea that there's ever any incentive to be bad. It sucks. Don't reward the guys who suck.
Domonique, what'd you make of Jerod Mayo being fired after just one season? It seems like he was a bridge to Mike Vrabel, which seems really unfair.
It does seem unfair, but you got to pick your battles. And Jerod Mayo has a track record that makes it hard for me to defend, and it makes it very difficult for me to say that I would want him to be the quarterback of my team. And it's not even the on-field stuff that I care about as much as it's the way that he's handled the team through the media. I think that we understand now, while Bill Belichick would always say on to Cincinnati, because Jerod Mayo, I think, did some damage to the psyche of the team and the culture of the team by just what he was saying. And so he's not the guy that I want to defend. It is unfair to give a guy 1 year head coaching and assume that he can get the job done and get as good as you want him to be. But I think they're going to move on, or no, I know they're going to move on. And it seems like with Vrabel, like, it feels like they already have a plan set up and in place. And Vrabel's a good coach, but I can't wait. Who do you think is going to be the charade hire? I mean, the charade interview. Who's it? Who's up? Tell them I'm available. You need a black guy to show up and chit chat. Holla at me. I'll come up to New England. I ain't been there in a couple years.
Domonique, at least wait till Monday, right? Like, doing it yesterday just felt so disrespectful.
Let the man enjoy his win. He ain't had many of them. Like, it was 20 minutes after the game.
It's the win that got him fired, though, I think. I mean,
it does kind of feel like that. That's part of it. But fire the man the next morning. Jeez, let him sleep good that night. Let him go home and be the big man.
Where can people get tickets to what it is that you're doing? Tell people again on your way out, Domonique, please. We're very excited for Domonique and his growing show. The Domonique Foxworth Show has gotten very popular on ESPN, and now he's traveling, touring. He's coming to New York. Give the people the details on your way out, please.
Yeah, you can go to at Foxworth24 on Twitter. I put a link up right there. The URL is too long to spell it out. You guys wouldn't know anything about that. But you can go there and click it and buy the tickets, $35. It's going to be fun, drinks, guests, all that stuff. Meet and greet? Oh, yeah, we're doing meet and greet at 6:30. I want to thank you guys for coming up and being guests on this show, because you're my friends and you care about me. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Domonique. Good seeing you again. Let us veer quickly, Stugotz, to something I've taken too long to get to. There are a number of football things worth talking about. I love those Titans uniforms. We wasted them, those Oiler uniforms on the Titans.
Oh, they're fantastic.
And I know Tom Brady stinks as a broadcaster, but I laugh every single time they just put up the graphic 7-time Super Bowl champion under his name. Like, it just sits there. It's an asinine thing to read about somebody. Like, it's not like I've forgotten, but when you see it written that way, like the champion. Okay, so he didn't just make it 7 times. He won 7 times. That's a thing that happened.
One with the Bucks.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to get to some football stuff, but getting back to college football, emotionally, Jessica has careened all over the place over the last 2 weeks on something that began as, I can't believe how lucky I am. I get to go watch a special Notre Dame team play meaningful national games. It's not something we've felt for a while, that Notre Dame might be one of the very best teams in the country.
Well, Notre Dame might be the best team in the country. We felt like a couple of years ago, maybe they were a team that could win a national. This is a team that probably should win the national championship.
Okay. Yes, Notre Dame's been a very good football team for probably the last decade and a half, but they haven't won meaningful postseason games, I would say. They've been solid. They've had 12 win seasons. They've played in a lot of New Year's Six games. They've played in multiple playoff games, but they haven't won any of them. So yes, like the Sugar Bowl was a huge moment for Notre Dame. to finally win one of these games with a team that has been playing excellently for the last 12 weeks. And it was really exciting to go from Indiana, coming to South Bend, going to the tailgate there, having a great time. And then Lee and I decided, let's go to New Orleans for New Year's Eve and go to the Sugar Bowl. And then obviously we woke up on New Year's Day, and just like, I've honestly felt pretty shitty since Wednesday morning. I feel like super, super lucky that we weren't on Bourbon Street when the attack happened. But we were there all day on New Year's Eve, and waking up Wednesday to like 100 texts from loved ones asking if we were okay. It's just like a really jarring feeling. So I feel really, really lucky, obviously. And I'm glad we were okay, but it's a horrible situation. I posted on my Instagram story yesterday a link to some sites that are, you can donate money to help some of the victims. So I'll repost that today. But yeah, it was just like an awful, awful, awful situation. And I just feel terrible for all the victims and all the families and everyone who's impacted by the attack on New Year's Day morning. It was just truly like just a horrific thing.
The transition is awkward to how fun the trip was at the start, Stugatz, because have you actually ever stayed at the Golic home? I know this has been a source of tension between you and Jessica, because she seems to have made her way into the Golic family, the Notre Dame family, in a way that is a little bit closer than how you've tried to make your way into their home.
I haven't. I have asked several times, and several times they have said no. And so I am insanely jealous of Jess that she has access that I don't have to the Golic family. Drives me crazy, to be honest with you, because I love that family.
Well, I'm sure they would have let you stay there if you went to the playoff game in South Bend. No. Okay. Well, it turns out they just let anyone into their house, because I got back from the game at like 1 a.m. This was December 20th after Notre Dame beat Indiana. And I walked into the kitchen and I saw Kyle Rudolph and another former ND player like sitting at their counter, and Mike were nowhere to be found. And then there's someone with his back to me, and he turns and he's like, "Hey, I'm Shane." And I was like, "Oh, it's Shane Gillis," because he was on game day. He was the guest picker that day, and he made fun of the Oklahoma Thunder, Shane Gillis Alexander.
Yes.
He was sitting there and introduced himself to me, and his manager, Becky, was there. Very nice woman, Dan. Don't worry. I told him, I was like, "Hey, my boss is a big fan of all comedians. He thinks you're a modern day philosopher. If you ever want to come on the Levitard show, standing invite." So we exchanged information with his manager. So I did some networking for you. So don't say I didn't work at all the last 2 weeks, okay? South Beach Sessions may be coming soon. He said he was that's a great, actually. Do you pay for Comfort Plus upgrades? Because that flight, it was not full, so I upgraded.
Comfort Plus?
Yeah.
Wow.
If we get the All-Star on the show, that's worth it.
Yes.
Anyway, so I didn't get to see College Game Day that day because I was tailgating, but it turns out he made fun of Nick Saban the entire time.
We're looking like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So, Alabama Jones had me dying. And someone finally addressing, you guys cheated, right? You guys paid. That's why you're so great. You paid. And then everyone's squirming. And Nick Saban not playing along with it.
No,
He's like,
he
this
was
is the fun
so
show,
mad.
right? He's like, this is the fun show, right?
He brought it up again the next day. Like, he was insanely triggered. And still no one has explained to me why he was wearing the hat. Why was he wearing that hat? I do not understand.
The time in my life that felt most like that, and we talked to Jimmy Kimmel about this after it happened, was when Jimmy Kimmel went into the booth as a comedian and was like, "Why are you guys treating this like a cathedral? You got the court jester Kornheiser over here, and he gets a football handed to him by Bob Kraft, and all of a sudden, everything out here is sacred." So Shane Gillis comes out and says Alabama Jones, and of course Saban's been pontificating from on high on college football while doing all the commercials, one of them in a whirlpool, while still wearing a shirt. Let's go, Nick. Come on, Nick. You can't be in the whirlpool still wearing a shirt in the whirlpool.
Wait, the VRBO commercials are really good, actually.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Those are good commercials.
No fun police.
The sun is
make me laugh. Yeah.
Especially at that age, and he seems to have a good tan. So
you can't be. Then do a different commercial that doesn't have you with. Look, me and Chris Cody can do a whirlpool shirt for sure. But if you're going to do the commercial, you can't put it on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Can you wear the shirt in the whirlpool?
Do you think Greg Cody is going into a whirlpool with a shirt? Of course you can. Like Greg does it, Nick can do it. It's an old man thing. That's all it is. I mean,
it's a hide your body thing.
I think
it's not an old man.
Not in your case.
I think that SGA example on game day is a good example of like, why has this show become so surly? And I look at what's happened. It's
crazy.
You had the FSU thing happen with Herbie, and you had Nick Saban come on, and I think they deferred to him. Credit to Pat McAfee, who I know is pretty polarizing, remains to be to a degree, but especially on that show, there was talk that he may not even come back. And I think by just being himself, maybe toning it down a little bit, but by comparison and contrast to the rest of it, he is so welcome. That energy is so needed because it has become a wet blanket of crotchety college football takes that make me feel bad for liking this sport.
I would say that generally across all American sports media, you will find an aging cynicism from the people who have covered it for the longest time, especially now that the controls are gone. And I don't know is it true of Ewers that $6 million is being offered? The reports of $6 million.
I've heard $10 million.
To get Ewers away from Texas while he's still there and not go to the draft so you can just have a quarterback next year, because the University of Miami obviously got Cam Ward cheap. When you see what these things can do to the economy, like, of course the old crusty people aren't going to get comfortable with that. When now wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the college kids are going to be making a lot more than I am at covering the sport, that the left tackle for Colorado is going to earn a lot more than me, who's been a gatekeeper, who gets to invite people to the Heisman ceremony?
He realistically should go back to college, though, for another year, right? Like, his draft stock is not where it should be. Like, he should take the money and then potentially increase his draft stock over this next
If the number is $10 million, that's more than he'll make in the NFL on a rookie contract.
Who are we talking about?
Ewers.
Yeah.
I saw $6 million as the highest.
Yeah, that was reported.
Is Mario in the game? Need a quarterback.
I think Quinn Ewers is certainly not going to be playing at Texas next season. I can guarantee you that.
That's a yes.
What a year 2024 was. Happy New Year's, everybody. New Year is this week. And some of you are going to be counting down to the new year with a lot of friends and a lot of family around. And that's a lot of palates. How do you make everybody happy? You make them happy by making New Year's time a Miller time. It's a beer with taste you know you can depend on that won't let anybody down. No games, no gimmicks, just great beer for people who like beer. In all my favorite moments of 2024, Miller Lite was right there by my side. Responsibly, of course. Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers. Simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors, and that iconic golden color that we all know and love. The original light beer since 1975 and still the very best one. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
The Dan LeBatard Show with Stu Gatz is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January feels like a fresh start. 365 blank pages, just waiting for your story to be written. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist. Ready to revise the parts of your story holding you back. Life isn't about New Year's resolutions that disappear by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your life. Therapy can help you do just that. Therapy isn't just for the big traumas. It's for anyone who wants to grow, heal, and thrive. With BetterHelp, therapy is convenient and affordable. It's fully online. You can access it anywhere, anytime. BetterHelp connects over 5 million people with a network of 30,000 licensed therapists, specialized, experienced, and ready to help. If it's not a right fit, you can switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.